I've been a professional luthier for 40 years, almost. There's 5 mistakes that I think every single guitarist, if not classical guitarist, makes. And let's take a look at all these, because I think I've got every single one of these issues in my shop right now. Mistake number 1, tying your strings. I'd say about half of the guitars that I see, the strings are tied so poorly, and either it's going to take me forever to take them off, and I know some of you said that's your problem. It's like, well, no, it's actually your problem, because I'm only dealing with the guitar when there's work to be done. If you are tying the strings the wrong way, you're going to have serious problems. First of all, you're going to have slippage at the bridge, which doesn't sound terrible, but you know, I've actually had a guitar come in last week. The string was slipping at the bridge, just kind of pulling through. And turns out it was just the string pulling. There was nothing wrong with the guitar. So that person spent a bit of time driving from the city out to here, because I'm just outside of Chicago. Their guitar, had they tied the string properly, would have been just fine. And likewise, at the headstock, you know, when you've got way too much string on there, first of all, you're wearing out your rollers way quickly. Second of all, it's going to take forever. And thirdly, it actually takes a lot longer for your strings to stretch out. So by the time they're done stretching out, the strings are already dead. And then you have to repeat the cycle, and you don't want to do it because it takes too long. How do you tie your string properly? Or I guess what's the wrong way of doing it? Not having the back of the knot cinched over the back of the bridge. That's the step 1. Actually, I just got this one in, and I'm looking at this one, and I can see that it's had a few slips. Up at the headstock, I can see that the strings are kind of tied on haphazardly. It's not terrible up here, but this bridge here is rather terrifying, and you can see the consequences of it. Tie your strings properly. If you follow my video on either my single hole or double hole, you're not going to have any slippage, you're not going to get any excess damage, and your strings are actually going to last a lot longer. The second big mistake I generally see is humidity and not controlling it. Honestly, sometimes as a repairman, this is the mistake I want to keep seeing happening, because it puts food on my table. If you can control the humidity of your environment, and here we keep our place at 50% relative humidity. Just got this one back from being certified and recalibrated. I know that this is accurate. None of these are, and I know that some of you say, you can calibrate it with the salts. Yeah, but the average person doesn't. They take it out of the box and think that this is okay, being 10 points off. If you aren't controlling your humidity, everybody talks about the dry factor. Oh my goodness, my guitar is dry. I need to humidify it. And so you put humidity in. If you live in the desert Southwest or one of these really arid regions, you will need to add humidity in the summer. If you're like me and live in the Midwest or the East Coast or really pretty much anywhere else in the country, you don't need to add humidity during the summer months. That actually causes significant damage. And actually, just so happen to have a guitar here that has damage from that. As you can see, this guitar completely got over humidified, the back expanded, and then separated the sides from the back. If you put too much humidity into your guitar, you can actually have some pretty big issues going on. What happens is ultimately you can compress the fibers of the wood, and then as the wood dries out, you're not going to have it be able to go back as far as it was, so you now have a new set point. If you get your guitar run up to 85 or 90% relative humidity on a consistent basis, your new normal may be 70% for a 50% built guitar, otherwise the wood is going to crack, and I see this all the time. On the other side of things, if things get way too dry for the guitar, that causes the obvious problems of cracks and the fret sprout. And I know a lot of people say, oh, I make a living off of filing off fret sprout. Thanks, you just took away the last reference point and the best reference point of where that guitar should have been humidity-wise. If you have a fingerboard that's put down at the appropriate humidity, which is, you know, we're kind of meticulous about it because we have so many guitars coming through here, but between 45 and 55% relative humidity, which is what is considered ideal, you shouldn't have any issue. But when you put down that fingerboard and the frets shrink out, that means that the guitar is dry. And once that fingerboard has come back to where it's supposed to be. Those frets are actually going to be nice and flush and level with the way that the fingerboard was originally cut. If your luthier tells you just file them off, it doesn't matter, you'll be fine for the rest of your life. And on an acoustic guitar, that's really one of the biggest mistakes you can do, because, you know, this guitar, I can tell you that it was really, really dry and then really, really humid for a long time. And then now it's doing something, and I'm not sure what, so I have to let it kind of set around here to make sure that it comes to the equilibrium in here, and then I can evaluate where it's at. Now, on an electric guitar, I suppose it's okay, because humidity doesn't affect it nearly as much nor as quickly, because you have a lot more wood mass in the entire system, and your action isn't as dependent upon the humidity as something like this. When you remove those fret ends, you're moving the best reference point. So watch your humidity. A simple Diodario two-way humidity pack does wonders. And I know there's some of you go, oh, that ruined my guitar. Ask yourself, did you use something else with it? Like another humidifier that exploded? They always say explicitly not to use any other system with it, and I agree. They work really, really well. Now, if you're in a really humid environment, you can go to Boveda and get a HA, which is their high absorbency pack. So that way, if you, like, I don't know, live on a houseboat, you can actually keep up with it. So keep that humidity in check. Look, we all make mistakes, but there are two that you don't have to make for me today. First one is by subscribing. If you think that this video has earned your subscription, I really would appreciate that. And second of all, if you want to check out some of these great guitars or any of my services, go ahead, contact me. My link is in the description and in the pinned comment. I do have a pretty good special going for one of my guitars if you use the promo code YouTube. All right. So the second mistake is that if you've done any of these, don't worry about it. If you have had any of these mistakes that we talk about today, don't worry about it. It's nothing to fret. It's, at the end of the day, only a guitar, right? What I want to do is help you ensure the life of any guitar that you have far greater than your own life. So the fourth mistake that I see a lot of people do is not entirely vetting their repairing luthier properly. A lot of them will come around and they'll see this laying around, and admittedly, I have had this bottle since 2014, and currently it is 2026. Now, granulated hot high glue, which you add water to and heat up, and I've got a video about that on how to make this stuff. This stuff doesn't let go. If somebody says that they use high glue and it comes in a bottle like this, that is adulterated with ureic formaldehyde to keep it liquid at room temperature, and that comes apart really easily. This stuff, not so much. You need heat and moisture. You also don't want to use this stuff on your guitar. And yes, I hear you saying, but Marshall, how come you have a bottle of this stuff around? Because there's actually a good place for it in my shop. Now, it's not to do a repair like this, because I didn't do that repair, but this is the consequence of the Gorilla stuff. Where you use it, and where I'm using it currently, is making up some purflings, because I want this to never come apart. I'll use this for purflings. I'll use some epoxy sometimes. Sometimes I'll use high glue. It kind of depends on how I'm feeling and how much time I've got. It's not to say that I can't use this stuff in my shop, but you just should never have it used on a repair. And if you see one of these bottles around and they're not making purfling actively, don't go to that shop. Now, again, another thing, if you see somebody whip out a bottle of super glue, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Again, it has its places. I like to use this for wicking under frets, installing dots. Sometimes a little bit of finish touch-up can be done with it without too much issue. But if you're going to use it to glue a crack, maybe not. Make sure at least that they are well-versed enough to use this. High glue is reversible. You can glue to it again. This and this cannot be glued to each other again. In fact, when I talk to some of the people who know about this stuff really, really well, I asked if there was anything that would undo this. And, they basically laughed and said, how long do you want to live? If it takes a chemical that strong to undo this, I really don't want to use it for anything that would have to be accessed without destructive removal. And so for me, purflings are kind of where it's at. Super glue is an interesting one because it is readily reversible. You know, a little bit of acetone or nail polish remover, and this will come undone pretty well. And it is really, really wonderful for consolidating Brazilian rosewoods, cocobolos, any of those weird things that tend to want to chip and crack. And one of my really good friends who makes incredible guitars out of Malaysia, whenever he builds his guitars, I know that he floods his wood with this stuff to just find the hidden cracks and fissures. And by golly, his guitars are gorgeous and it doesn't affect the tone, because he's gotten all the cracks taken care of with this stuff before it's turned into a guitar. It's all a matter of choosing the right glue and making sure that your luthier knows how to use this stuff. So the fourth major mistake that I see a lot of people do is the cleaning of your guitars, okay? Around here, I use a 3M Super Buff 8-inch pad with what is this? Meguiar's number 9, because this has no silicones or it has no silicones or any other additives. This is a machinist polishing compound, so it doesn't really leave a whole lot of nasty residue. I've got a terry cloth towel that is fairly well impregnated, and yes, I do clean this off from time to time. It's not just some nasty, scuzzy thing, and I try to make sure that this rests on top of my bottle for cleaning. A lot of these products that are designed for guitar cleaning are just kind of rebadged goop. Something like this, which is, let's just say it's been flooding a lot around here, so our water is in sorely need of a water filter. Just some regular old plain tap water, as long as your area isn't flooding kind of like ours is plenty good to take care of about 95% of the grossness on your guitar. When you get into that last 5%, one drop of Dawn dishwashing soap, or actually I found that Joy of all of them works surprisingly well. One drop of that into this whole cup, and you've got a really powerful cleaning solution. Now for the fingerboards, I know people say, oh, but the fingerboard is dry. No, it's not dry. Oil doesn't contain moisture. Look it up. Oil makes wood dark. It doesn't make it wet. So if you clean with water, resist the temptation to put any of the oils on. They accelerate the wear on it. Mineral oil is like the least of the bad ones. I could be convinced into that, but I personally prefer a carnauba wax, a pure carnauba wax or pure beeswax if I'm going to do anything, but only on the fingerboard, not on the body of the guitar. Every time I get a guitar in where somebody says, oh, I used lemon oil on it and I've already buffed it, I got to throw away my pad because it does weird things with doing finished touch-ups. And with the guitars that I'm working on, I don't want to have weirdness with my finished touch-ups, nor do I want to be contaminating them with silicas or silicones. That is a bad thing. You know, any paint guy will tell you that having that stuff anywhere near the surface of your car is a bad idea, so why should it be good for your guitar? Best thing to use? A little bit of tap water. So the fifth biggest mistake that I see most guitarists do is fighting the instrument. If your instrument is hard to play, and I don't care if it costs $200 or $200,000, if it's hard to play, it's probably not the right guitar for you. You know, you want to play the instrument to enjoy and to have fun and to entertain others if that's your thing, or to entertain yourself and your cat if that's your thing, or dog, or iguana, or whatever pet you may have, or your houseplants. Ultimately, fighting a guitar is really one of the most frustrating things, and I see so many people where they start, they seem to be promising, they get a cheaper guitar, and then don't want to do anything with it because they only put $200 into the guitar, which is fine. But then when it comes to doing a setup on that for them to make it more comfortable, and they're unwilling to, that's when I see them typically drop out. So fighting your guitar is probably the largest mistake that I see people do. Get a guitar that's at least good enough to be worthwhile to put the money in for a setup. And that will reward you beyond any of these others. These 5 little things that you do, just, checking your strings, making sure that the guitar is properly humidified, that, You use the right glue, you clean them, and it's easy to play. If you take care of those 5 things, your guitar experience will be so much more rewarding. And with that said, please like, subscribe, check out those stuff that I have on my website, because without your support, I can't continue doing this. Likewise, check out what we have on Patreon, and I'll see you next time. And oh, one last thing. Check out this video and this video.